by Jewish standards, were not good.
They were like tax collectors. They were just dishonest, rapscallions, rascals. You know, that there was no love lost between a good Jew and a Samaritan. And so they hated the Samaritans because, well, so many things. We'll talk a little bit still more about that because there's more to be said. But in chapter 4, Jesus meets this woman of Samaria at the well. So let's go ahead and we've already got through verse number, we've traveled through verse number 12. And Christ is talking to the woman at Samaria. And he's asked her to give him a drink. Let's go to verse number 11. We'll begin there. And we'll read through a ways and then we'll stop and just comment through. Verse number 11, the woman saith unto him, Sir, thou hast nothing to draw with. The well is deep. From whence then hast thou that living water? Christ is asking for a drink. And then she says, or he says to her, if you knew who it was that asked you, you'd ask him to give you living water. Well, she's got H2O in her mind. And so she says, it's a deep well. There's a rope, maybe they're at the well, but you carry nothing to lower into that well. So how in the world can you offer me a drink? You just asked for a drink, and yet you say you can give me living water. So, she's not equating that he's talking about something more than just liquid, H2O. And this woman has a tremendous need in her life, and she is not understanding what he's talking about, but he's going to enlarge upon her need. In other words, she knows she has a need, but he's gonna let her see plainly the need. She already knows it. He's going to let her know that he knows it, and he sets about to do that. And so she says, "You ain't anything to draw with. The well's deep. How can you get living water?" Verse 12. Art thou greater than our father Jacob? Again, note that. She draws a direct lineage between her and Jacob. Although she is called Jesus, a Jew, and is told him plainly, you Jews have nothing to do with the Samaritans. She's called him a Jew and says, you don't have anything to do with the Samaritans. By the way, she was a woman, and it was not customary for a man to speak publicly with a woman, let alone he being a Jew, her being a Samaritan. And now she says, are you greater than Jacob? So she draws a lineage between her and Jacob, and the Samaritans did. Now here's what I want you to catch here. The Samaritans drew a lineage of Judaism through Joseph's line. Right? So she says, art thou greater than our father Jacob, which gave us the well, drank thereof himself and his children and his cattle. Now I want you to go back and look at verse 5. Remember this well. Look at what it was. The well, which is called, the area is called Sychar, near to the parcel brother Jacob gave to his son who? Joseph. And so the Samaritans draw a lineage between themselves through the Jewish culture through Joseph's line. Right? But yet there is a distinction between the southern Jew and he has nothing to do with the Samaritan because the Samaritan's lineage is so mixed up with all these other people groups. And I read to you out of Kings last week and we talked about that. So she says to Jesus, are you greater than our father Jacob, which gave us the well, and drank thereof himself, his children, and his cattle? Jesus answered and said to her, whosoever drinketh of this water shall thirst again. But whosoever drinketh of the water that I shall give him shall never thirst, but the water that I shall give him shall be in him a well of water, springing up into everlasting life. Okay, now he's going into a spiritual realm. Everlasting life. So he tells the woman, I can give you water that you'll never thirst again, and it will be in you a well springing up into everlasting life. Okay? Well, that's an exciting offer. So the woman says in verse 15, Sir, give me this water. Now notice the next three little phrases. Number one, that I thirst not. Number two, neither come hither. Two phrases. Neither come hither to what?
Draw.
To draw. Now, she's, whether in her mind she's thinking that there's actually a source of water and she can drink it once and never have to thirst again, I don't think so. I don't think she's that naive. And this woman is no dummy. She is a woman of knowledge, but she is morally not a woman of good repute. That is why she's come to the well at this time of the day. That's why she's come by herself. You go to the story of Jesus turning water into wine in John chapter 2. They were at this celebration of a wedding, and Jesus' mother came and says they have no wine. And Jesus, he speaks to his mother for a little bit, and it's not important in that story, we pass that. She then says to the servants, whatever he says, you do it. The servants. So Jesus had told the servants to go and fill up the water pots with water. It was the servants' job. So typically, early in the morning, the servants would go to the well. This woman is coming in the middle of the day by herself. She doesn't have a servant to do it. She doesn't come when the rest of the people come. She comes by herself. I imagine it's a lonely trek for her. Other people don't find her company very pleasant. They don't want to be seen with her. Why? Well, Jesus is going to share with us her relational problems here in just a minute. She says to Jesus, as she is crying out in her need, she says, I love that kind of water. I don't want to thirst again, and I don't want to come out here and draw this water anymore. It's a lonely trek. I'm reminded of my social, what would you say? My social idiosyncrasy, my social lack of ability. People don't want to be around. That's what I'm doing. I don't like coming out here. I don't want to have to draw this water. So, she's thirsty for something. So in verse 16, well, let me stop for a minute. Jesus said, the water I'll give you will be a well of water springing up into everlasting life. So what's he saying? What's he talking about there? In John chapter 7, if you go to John chapter 7, which we're going to cover in a few more weeks, Jesus is going to be in Jerusalem at the great feast day, and he's going to say these words, come unto me, all ye that thirst, and I'll give you living water, and out of you shall flow rivers of living water. And the text in John chapter 7 explains it, that he's talking about the Holy Spirit. And this is what Christ is doing. Ever since John chapter 3, he has plainly made it clear that he hasn't come to create a worldly kingdom, but rather he's come to give a heavenly kingdom, and he hasn't come that sins might be vindicated or that sins might be settled amongst people. He has come that sins might be remitted, and he's come that the world might have his sins remitted. That's why he says to the lawyer. That's why he says, you love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and then you love your neighbor. And now he's showing us who our neighbor is. Who's your neighbor? It's everyone. It's the world. It's the Samaritans too. He is living out this great truth that he's trying to teach his disciples. They're going to show up here in a minute, and they're going to marvel that he's talking with this woman. That's what the text says. They're marveling that he's talking with this woman. I mean, they understand she's coming in the middle of the day, and nobody else wants to be around her. That she's a woman, that she's a Samaritan woman. Why would Jesus take the time today to talk to her? Because God loves her, that's why. Because her soul's empty, that's why. Because she needs water of life, that's why. It's, Jesus talking about the Holy Spirit that brings the water of life and dwells within us and brings the refreshing love of Christ into our lives, and that we have God's blessing and God's life and God's love springing out of us. That's what this woman's wanting. Her life is so empty. That's what she needs. How many of you ever heard the term artesian well? When he talks about this, I think of an artesian well. I have a good friend. Some of you have met the Kings. Maybe you know Dale King. His brother Wayne and I have been good friends for years. And Wayne used to live over here near Hagerstown in Frederick. He left that area, moved out to Wyoming, and was working with a church. He's done a great job. He's had a lot of physical issues. He's no longer pastoring. But he just built a house recently up on the face of a mountain. Beautiful area. Very lovely area near Landon, Wyoming. And just down the road is a couple there that live in a nice home. And this guy has worked for years with Johnson Controls. But that's not important. The fact is that the water out there can be a very difficult issue. They're mountainous country, and sometimes you got to go hundreds of feet deep. You got to go through the rock, and it costs you $30,000, $40,000 just to drill a well. It's a 3 or 4 day job to put a well deep enough to get good water. And where Wayne's at, the guy come out to digging a well. He planned to be there, I think, 4 or 5 days just digging that well. Just down the road from Wayne, where this couple lives, they attended Wayne's church. And it's a very interesting situation. In their home, they went to put in a well. When they did, and they hit water, the water came springing up, and they don't even have a pump. Don't need it. That well supplies a constant pressure of between 40 and 42 pounds of water pressure constantly with no pump. Now, that's interesting, isn't it? That's all. It's got kind of a different deal for us out here. We can dig down in places 2 or 3 feet and all of a sudden start hitting water. It's usually not good water, but our water table is very high because we're only a few feet above sea level here. But it's very difficult for them to have a good water supply out there. And they have a well that just springs up. That's what Jesus is saying. The Holy Spirit is a well of living water within us, springing up. And as God's people, the precious Holy Spirit brings the refreshment of God into our life. In fact, His desire is to fill us up and run us over.
Amen.
Unfortunately, some of us have never tapped into it sufficiently to realize that God intends for that to be such a blessing in our life. We run around with our heads hung, and it defeats sometimes, But I'm going to tell you, the Holy Spirit comes to dwell within us to be God's life in us. Amen. And that's like a well of water springing up in everlasting life. This woman was very needy. And Jesus said, I know what you're needing. So now he's going to help her understand her need. I mean, she doesn't need much help. She understands it already. But he's going to reveal to her that he has the ability. He knows her need. He knows how to meet it. And by the way, he knows your need. He knows how to meet it. You want to tell you something else? He knows every thought you've already thought this morning. Amen. Mm-hmm. I've had a few thoughts I didn't want him to know already this morning. So he says to the woman, "Go call thy husband," verse 16, "and come hither." The woman answered and said, "I have no husband." Jesus said unto her, "Thou hast well said, I have no husband, for thou hast had 5 husbands, and he whom thou now hast is not thy husband. In that sayest thou truly." And one thing this woman's got going for her, she's honest. Yep. She's honest about it. I want you to know something else here too. Many of you have heard preachers preach out of John, and they brought out all kinds of things. And I tell you have a hard time exhausting the book of John. You can preach on it for years, I think, and stay there and never, there's just so much. And I'm overwhelmed. I begin to read it. I want you to notice something. Number one, Jesus says to her, call your husband. She says, I don't have one. And Jesus says, yeah, that's right, you had 5. And one guy's not your husband. Could I insert something here? Notice that Jesus draws a distinction between who's a husband and who's not. When you think of the ramifications of that statement, could I tell you that when the Bible says marriage is honorable, that's what it means. And that God still understands the difference between married and unmarried, that there is a difference. By the way, I'm not about to step down from the position that we take on the marriage between a man and a woman.
Amen.
That is honorable and that it is right. And I have no place for living together. And Christian people ought not have any place for it either.
Amen.
You understand that everything about our salvation is built on faith, and faith is built on trust, and God's whole reflection of His love is based on faith and trust is what is absolutely necessary, and this is the whole concept of living together. There is trust around with it. It says, I don't trust you, therefore I'm trying you out. There is no trust. It's built on love of self to begin with. It's built on selfish principles. They say, what do we do? We encourage our kids to follow God's plan. Encourage us, and let's stand for what it means. Let's stand for what's right about this whole thing in here. God does.
Amen.
Jesus did. It's not your husband, He says. And that says it's not true. Now, when He reveals all that, He knows. That's why I say He knows your thoughts. He knows my thoughts. There's been some already this morning who wishes you didn't know. But He knows them, so I had to confess it to you on my way to church today. I knew I was going to stand up there and try to preach the Bible. And there's some things I thought this morning that weren't real popular. I said, Lord, you've seen it, you know it, and it ain't right. I'm sorry. Now, so far, I haven't said too many things I have to apologize for you today. I may have before the day's over. But I thought some things I should say. And so, the woman says now, wow, she's incredulous. This guy knows everything about me. I've never seen him before in my life. And so she said, you're a prophet. Let's go to verse number 19. The woman saith unto him, Sir, I perceive that thou art a prophet. If you know all this about me, you must be a man of God. Well, indeed he is.
Amen.
It's more than that.
Amen.
Now notice verse 20. Now here's a story, and I want you to stay with me because it's got a lot of ground to cover, and I always run out of time. Notice the next verse. Our fathers, what's the next word? Worship. Past tense. They're at Sychar. That means you're on Mount Gerizim, located in the area of Samaria. Gerizim is a mountain. Gerizim is the highest point in Samaria. Right? It's the tallest mountain in Samaria. In Delaware, we don't have any tall mountains. Brother Charles looks at the septic mountain systems and says, those are the mountains of Delaware. We don't have many high places in Delaware. But Gerizim was the highest point in Samaria. So she says, our fathers worship, past tense. Our fathers worshiped in this mountain. And ye say that in Jerusalem is a place where men ought to worship. All right, so she's changed gears now. We've gone from water to worship. This woman is not stupid. She's just an old sinner woman, but she's not dumb. She's pretty smart. She said, you're a prophet. I've got a nagging question. I've been taught all my life that this is the place to worship. And Jesus term our fathers worship past tense. Here's what happened. Now, this is a long story, but I'll make it as short as possible. Here's the whole problem. Here's the whole conundrum with the Samaritan people. Back in Ezra's day, when the king of Persia, or the Persian Empire, Cyrus, had released the children of Israel down there in Babylon, God had said in Isaiah, about 300 years before it happened, God had said, Cyrus is my servant. He's going to open the two-leaf gates. He's going to open up Babylon and let my people go back. Before it ever happened, God says it's going to happen. You can look it up in Isaiah. Cyrus lets the people go back. Ezra had a desire to go back and rebuild the temple because the Babylonians had destroyed it. So he went back and rebuilt the temple. You can read about Ezra. He got back there and Sanballat, same guy that was, some of the people that were causing trouble with Nehemiah was going to build the wall. The Samaritans, they wanted to help Ezra rebuild the temple because they said, now ever since Ezra had it, ever since the Assyrian kings brought us here, we worship your God. And so we want to help you. So let us come down there and join in with you. And Ezra said, no way. You're not part of the covenant. You're not part of the Jewish people. You can't prove your lineage. And so he wouldn't let him come. And they started causing him all kinds of problems. Right? So what happened was, there's another, Ezra kept right on going, and there was a span there where the work got shut down because this crowd wrote a letter back to the king that said, you don't want them to rebuild this temple. If they do, man, they'll cause problems. They won't pay taxes. There'll be a problem to you. And so they shut them down for a while, but they persisted, and the temple was built. Well, another problem ensued, and that was this, that the crowd who came back to build the temple, there was a lot of men who came back to work who felt cold, and there were some priests who came back. And the problem was, they started looking around, there was more men apparently than there were women, and some of these Samaritan women who kept traveling down and were always around, they were prettier than some of the Jewish women, or they were available, and it began to be intermarriages once again with the Samaritan women. In fact, some of the priests were marrying women who were not Jews. And when Ezra found out about it, he was all upset. He says, it really bothered him because they were mixed marriages. They were not pure marriages. And God's people were not to intermarry with unbelievers, with idolaters. And so he insisted, you get rid of your foreign wives, get straightened out here. He said, or else all this work we've done to rebuild the temple of God is all for naught because we're going into sin. And how can God bless us if we do that? And so they got rid of the foreign wives. But some of them didn't want to. And so here's what happened. The guy who was king up there in Samaria, one of his girls was actually married to one of the brothers of the high priest. By the way, you can get this information through Josephus, historian, Jewish historian. He was married, or his daughter was married to a brother of the high priest named Manasseh. And so he said to his son-in-law, and his son-in-law didn't want to divorce his daughter. He said, tell you what. He said, we love God too up here. I tell you what we'll do, we'll just build us a temple up here. You can come up here and be the high priest up here. And there's a lot more details in the story, but that's what they did. So they built a temple up there at Gerizim, and some of the Jewish priests who had intermarried and who didn't like it because they told them you got to put away your foreign wives, they were lured away, and that's, by the way, that's where we get what we call the Samaritan Pentateuch. You see, the Samaritans read the Old Testament, the first 5 books of the Old Testament. They had the books of the Old Testament and read them just like the Jews. That's why this woman has such knowledge of the things that's going on. They read some of the same Bible, but their worship was a caricature of the worship of the temple in Jerusalem. So they built a temple. By the way, that temple was destroyed during the intertestamental period. That's why the woman said that Jesus, our fathers, worship. Past tense. The temple got destroyed by the Maccabees. So the temple was laid in ruins So now she's been taught that our temple is ruined, but here's where we've got to worship God. Now listen to me carefully. In those days and time, there was still, and in Old Testament time, when God's people worshipped the Baals, there was still the idea of local deities, just like there were local tribes. In other words, this tribe lives over here, and they have their God. This tribe lives over here, and they have their God. And their God is tied directly into that locale. In other words, their God is sovereign in that area. And this God is sovereign over here in this area. You know, this tribe's God, is sovereign over here. That's why, when the Assyrian king moved the people into the land, in Kings, Book of Kings, all of a sudden lions are coming in and destroying. The Assyrian king says, come right on in, folks, come on in. You're fine. The Assyrian king, they sent to the Assyrian king, says, the God of this land is not pleased with us. So send us a priest back from Babylon, or from Assyria where you take the Jews, send us a priest back here to tell us the way of this God. Because we stirred him up. So this whole idea of deities and locale, that was a part of this woman's psyche. And she believed that the place to worship was in this mountain. By the way, it's the same problem Jesus was having with the Jews down there in Jerusalem, because they believed the only place God ever did business was in Jerusalem. And they were still thinking that God was going to come back and send the Messiah to build a big kingdom out of Jerusalem. We will! But that wasn't it. He's thinking about a world, the kingdom of heaven. Jesus died for the world.
Amen.
This woman's trying to figure it all out. Some people are still trying to figure it out. Do you realize, I don't mean this as kindly, but if this is a place you worship, you're in trouble. Because the Holy Spirit dwells within us. We've become the temple of God. We ought to worship every day of our life.
Amen.
All you do is come here to meet with God's people and get us some preaching. But listen, worship ought to be something we do all the time. And that's what Jesus is telling this woman. Oh, this is a marvelous verse. Let's read it. Verse number 21. Jesus said, and the woman, he's going to answer her question. Believe me, the hour cometh, when ye shall neither in this mountain nor yet in Jerusalem worship the Father. Ye worship ye know not what. And Jesus has been very truthful. He says, you Samaritans are all mixed up. Your religion has been a caricature of the true religion. You got the Bible, but you don't understand it. And you don't really worship the true God, although you think you do. And he says, you don't know what you worship. But he says, the Jews, and here's why the Jewish people, listen to me carefully. This is why the Jewish people have been beat up so bad and run from pillar to post for the last 2,000 years, because they knew the truth, and they refused to accept it, and they refused to believe it, and they've been beat up ever since, because they still will not recognize their Messiah, and it's not over yet. And that's why Jesus is talking to a Samaritan. The Jews aren't to listen to him. In fact, as we read on here, in a little bit it's going to say he's going to go back to Galilee, and he himself testified that a prophet has no honor in his own country. Jews aren't listening to him very well. But he did that. He came into his own, and what? His own received him. He said, we know what we worship. Talking about the Jews. For salvation is of the Jews. But the hour cometh now is, when the true worshiper shall worship the Father in spirit and truth, for the Father seeketh such to worship him. And verse 24, if you've not committed to memory, listen to me, if you've not committed to memory, you ought to. Here's what it says. God is a spirit. They that worship him must worship him in what? In spirit and in truth. Lady, he said, I'm offering you living water. And he said, I want you to know you don't need a temple now. That's right. Listen. The idea of a local deity, in a sense, was true when the Shekinah glory rested between the cherubims on the mercy seat, When the queen of Sheba came and saw everything that Solomon had, I mean, it was worth coming to see at that time. She came to see Solomon, she came to see his riches, and she came to see the temple. And there the Shekinah glory of God dwelt. Alright? Yes, in that day, Jerusalem was the center of the worship of Jehovah. But God didn't need for that worship to stay there. He meant for the Jews to spread that light everywhere. Let me tell you something. When the star arose over Bethlehem, yes, it was right for the wise men to travel all the way across the Fertile Crescent and to find that baby and to fall down and worship him. And he was at a specific place at a specific time. But my friend, I want to tell you, when the Spirit of God was unleashed, the salvation can be to anybody, any place, any time, and anywhere.
Amen.
Amen.
By the way, if you make the name of Christ, you carry the Spirit of God with you everywhere you go.
Amen.
Thank you, Lord.
And you can worship God in spirit and in truth. Everywhere.
Amen.
So, God is a spirit. The woman says in him, now listen, this woman is smart. She has a lot of spiritual, she has a lot of Bible understanding. Because she's looking for Messiah. She's a Samaritan. So verse 25, the woman says, I know the Messiah cometh, which is called Christ. When he is come, he will tell us all things. Jesus says to her, I that speak unto thee am he. Wow. I'll bet you when she got up that morning, she wasn't figuring on meeting the Messiah. She didn't know she was going to meet God that day. She did.
Amen.
And upon this came his disciples and marveled that he talked with the woman, yet no man says, what seekest thou, or why talkest thou with her? The woman then left her water pot. And she's come for water. She got something different. She wasn't thirsty anymore. Now she'll come back and get it. She's got another burden. She's got sick. She left the water pot, went away to the city, and said to the men, come see a man who has told me all the things that ever I did. Is not this the Christ? Then they went out of the city and came unto him. In the meanwhile, his disciples prayed and saying, Master, eat. But he said unto them, I have meat to eat that you know not of. Therefore says the disciples one to another, if any man blind ought to eat, Jesus says unto them, my meat is to do the will of him that sent me and to finish his work. Now listen carefully. Just as the woman was no longer interested in water, Jesus wasn't hungry for meat. Why? Because he was doing something that gave him more satisfaction at that point. That was, he was winning folks. He was telling them the gospel. He knew that the Samaritans, she was bringing him out. The men were coming out to see him. And so he said, I've got more important things to do. And physical food is not my interest right now. And that's it. There's a message there within itself. God help us. We are very, very physical in our nature, you know. And it is important that we realize that the great heart of God is for the souls of men. And we need to have a burden just like he did. But he says, I'm not hungry. He said, I've got other things to do. And he says, it's more satisfying to me to do my Father's work. And he says, my meat is to do well in the city and to finish his work. Say not, there are yet 4 months, and cometh harvest. So they were in the time of year where harvest wasn't yet. You know, Jesus says, if you guys would say that we're going to harvest in 4 months, but I'm telling you now is the harvest time. And he's speaking of the harvest of souls. Lift up your eyes and look on the fields, for they are white already in the harvest. Again, here's a great lesson, the realization that there are people who need Christ everywhere we go. Even when you don't think it's an opportunistic time, always be willing to share Christ. Always be willing to say a good thing for the Lord. Always be willing to speak the truth. You don't know what God will do with it at any place, at any given point in time God will use it. He says, he that reapeth receiveth wages, and gathereth fruit unto life eternal. Both he that soweth and he that reapeth may rejoice together. And herein is that same tree, one soweth another reapeth. I sent you to reap that whereon you bestowed no labor. Other men labor, you're entered into their labors. So what's Jesus saying here? He says, listen, he says, there's been others been sowing seed, and see, this woman of Samaria, she was Samaritan. But she had a hunger for the truth. You never know what people are going to be hungering around. That's why you always need to be ready to give an answer to it.
Amen.
And Jesus said, He said, you guys couldn't understand why I want to travel to Samaria. But here's why I want to travel to Samaria. This is, we say without saying, I had an appointment today. I had a very important appointment today.
Amen.
And he said, why is going to happen because of this appointment? And indeed he did. That little woman, she left the water box, crushes the town. She started telling me, come see a man who told me everything that I ever did. And I bet you some of the men who knew her raised their eyebrows and says, wow, he knows quite a bit. And one looked at the other and said, maybe I'll go see this guy. You know? And they did. They come trooping out to see Christ. Now, let's read on to verse 42. Jesus says in verse 38, I say to reap whereupon you bestow your labor, other than labor, you entered into their labors. And many of the Samaritans of that city believed on him for the saying of the woman which testified, he told me all that ever I did. So when the Samaritans were come unto him, they saw him, that he would tarry with them, and he abode there 2 days. A good church never stayed in Samaria. He kept walking until he was outside. Christ stayed there 2 days. And many more believed because of his own woman, and said unto the woman, now we believe, not because of thy saying, we have heard it ourselves, and know that this is indeed, what's the next 2 words?
Christ.
The Christ. Now look at the next phrase. The Savior of the world.
Amen.
Now these were Samaritans, but they were still looking for a Savior. You never know who's looking. So always be willing to speak for him. Because you might find somebody that's looking and you don't even know. A lot of people are looking. When I look at our culture right now, and I see the angst in our culture, you know why? It's because there's a lot of empty soul people trying to figure out what it's all about. And some of them are mad, and some of them are sad, and some of them are disillusioned, and some of them are discouraged, and some of them are just plain hateful angry. Why? Because their souls are empty. And they need living water. Well, let's be busy about giving it out. Why? The Spirit of God resides in us, and He has got a spring of water, and we've got a supply within us that we can give, and you'll never run out if you start giving it away.
Amen.
It's like that artesian well I told you about. The folks have out there in Lander Wyoming. If that guy would open up the valve on that well, you know, I don't know for how many years she's running, she just keeps running. How's that all work? I don't know. How's the Spirit of God do all that? I don't know, but He did. It's not for me to understand all of it. It's for me to believe it.
Amen.
So today, number one, my prayer and my desire for each of us is that living water resides in us. The Holy Spirit resides in us. If you're here today, the only way the Spirit of God resides in you is that if you, by faith, have asked Him and trusted Him and received Him into your heart and mind. By faith. Coming to church won't do it. Being baptized won't do it. It's going to be a matter of faith and faith alone, where you ask Christ to be your Lord and Savior. If you have, the Spirit of God resides in you. Now, just start sharing the water of life with everybody you can.
Amen.
People need it. There's a lot of empty people out there. They're just like this lady. Empty. She's thirsty. She was looking for something to drink. She was tired of drawing water. She needed living only Christ. All right, we're going to conclude. Any questions or comments? Questions or comments? Anything you want to add? Anything you want to... There is it. I get the yammering, and I don't know whether you're with me or not, but I hope you are.
Amen.
Okay. We're with you. If there's areas to about biblical truth, because God's Word, we need to know it. We want you to know it. And so, what we're teaching, we want it to resonate with you. We want you to enjoy it. It will be a blessing, but we want you to have an understanding.
Amen.
That's why we teach it. So if things are cloudy and uncertain, come see us. We'll be glad to sit down. Brother Gary?